Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Starista, probably the most entertaining marketing podcast you're going to put in your ears. I'm Jared Walls, associate producer and Starista's creative copy manager. The goal of this podcast is to chat with industry leaders to get their take on the current challenges of the market, but also have a little fun along the way. In this episode, Vincent and Ajay catch up with Louise Pritchard, CMO at Shopii. She goes in depth about the ever-changing challenges of the grocery industry and how Shopii works to foster a seamless shopping journey. She also offers up her experience with the obstacles and wins that come with being a woman in tech. Ajay takes a couple of naps, and Vincent runs out of dad shirts. Give it a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Vincent Pietrafesa, the Vice President of B2B Products here at Starista. So that must mean one thing. It's another episode of the Marketing Stir. Thank you so much for all the love you have been sending us. Thank you so much for all of our listeners. This is crazy. We started this back in March, and I think like 3 people listened to us. One of them, not even my wife. She's a really big support. But all of you have listened, over 46,000. Hopefully by the time this comes out, it's even more. So thank you for listening to Starista's The Marketing Stir. Starista, who are we, right? We are an identity marketing company. We have our own business data, own consumer data. We help companies send us your first party data. We will enrich it, model it, find you new customers, email marketing, programmatic, CTV, OTT, direct mail. We have our own DSP, Adster. We have it all. Email me, vincent@starista.com. That is how confident I am. You can email me. I just gave you my email address. That's crazy. I know. Also, what's also crazy, this next guy, he's a crazy guy. Well, not really anymore. Those are younger days, but, he is the CEO of Starista. He is my co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, Mr. Ajay Gupta. What's going on, Ajay?
Hey, Vincent, did they run out of dad shirts?
They did. I know. I had no dad shirt today. It's a cashmere sweater. Look how fancy I am here in New York City.
Yeah.
It was on sale at J. Crew. Shout out to J. Crew, 40% off. But
yeah,
no.
Definitely a little bit of a New York look there.
Yeah, with the cashmere sweater, it is. It's I've gone bougie. You see what over 46,000 listeners has done to me? It's crazy. How are you, sir? What's good with you?
I'm doing well. I actually had a relaxing, peaceful week, so it was good. Didn't do a whole lot. Managed to nap both Saturday and Sunday, so it's always a good weekend.
I think the listeners have been, keen to your naps, Ajay. You're known as the napper, and
hey, you know
they're
what?
jealous.
It's the key to success.
A nap. You heard it here first. That is amazing. The other key to success, see what I did there? I'm becoming a really good host, is the other key to success are our guests. That's our key to success here at the Marketing Stir, and we have got a great one today. I am very excited to talk to her because I've already spoken to her, and she is fun, she is knowledgeable, and she is, doing some amazing work in an industry that you'd want to hear about because it could really help you, our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CMO of Shopii, Louise Pritchard. What's going on, Louise?
How are you? Good morning from Virginia.
I love it. Good morning. Look at that energy. She's matching the energy on the show. I love it. Louise, how's everything? I haven't spoken to you in a while.
It's been great. Running a startup is like drinking from a fire hose, but it's all good. It's exciting, keeps your brain working, and I'm excited to talk to y'all.
We are excited that you are here. Louise, for the listeners, please talk to us about Shopii and as well as your role within the organization.
Sure, thanks. I am the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of Shopii, and Shopii is a SaaS software that brings digital meal planning to grocers' e-commerce platforms. Our whole idea with our B2B software is to help retain clients, build loyalty at the grocer level, and build bigger baskets. And then also give a platform, a new platform for CPGs and food brands to be able to get their products in front of grocers at the micro moment that they're making their shopping decisions. There are a lot of B2Cs out there, but ours is a B2B, and we really focus at that grocer level.
Now, also, I just wanted to talk about, that what you're doing is very important. I mean, talk to me when Shopii started, because I feel like this in 2020, it was even more needed than it's been. Talk to me about when the company started, and talk to me about, the first few years.
Let me tell you about our journey. So we've only been in business about a year and a half, but the journey started before that. Both Katie Holtz, our CEO, and I were working moms and trying to figure out what's for dinner. At 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you're coming home. Katie was in Chicago, riding the train home, trying to figure out what she was going to cook her kids for dinner. And for me, working all day, running out to a field hockey or a soccer game going, oh my God, and you didn't want to take your kids to the grocery store at that time of night. That was just insane. So you ended up going, Taco Tuesday, Pizza Wednesday, and you're going, wait, this is not all that healthy. How can we do this better? What can we do to take the pain point out of this planning process? So Katie actually built the wireframes for this software as she was sketching it out on one of her train trips home. And she started the process and came to me about a year and a half ago and said, hey, would you be interested in joining me in this process? And I said, let's make it happen. So we really bootstrapped it, built it, brought it to fruition now, and we just are in contract negotiations for our first contract. So it's really exciting times. It really, and then with COVID hitting, people were getting used to the idea of shopping online. But there was a huge cart abandonment rate. Prior to COVID, there was about a 74 to 80% cart abandonment rate when you use things like Instacart or some of those, because you had to do all your planning ahead of time. Whoever was responsible for cooking and shopping in the home had to sit down on Sunday with all their cookbooks or recipes and say, okay, here's my list of things I need to get. And then go onto the platform and go hunt and peck and find all those things. And people got frustrated and quit. Then COVID hit, and then there was a rush of people trying to find online shopping, and they were switching around just to find anybody that could deliver products to them. So it really, nothing was changing. The pain points were even worse because you have an order that didn't fit what you had ordered and didn't get filled. And now as things are settling down, people are still shopping online more than ever before, but they're looking to put their shopping dollars at somebody that's going to help them make life easier. And that's where Shopii comes in. We actually take that pain point out of your journey because we provide you with recipe inspiration. And also, it is within the shopping journey. Right now, there are some B2Cs out there where you can go out and find a recipe, and then you can maybe choose one of 3 stores you could get it at, and you don't know, it's not a connection with the grocer. At the grocer level, they have recipes on their website, but it's not in the shopper journey. So with ours, you go in through your grocer, you go through, click a bot that says plan your meals. You go in, you get recipe inspiration. It puts everything in your cart you need to make those recipes. But when you check out, you still have the ability to get your toilet paper, your paper towels, cat food, whatever it is you need. So it's a seamless shopping journey, and that's not out there right now.
And Louise, how did you get into marketing in the first place?
Wow, I've been in marketing ever since I was in college. Funny story, I started out in the home ec school back in the day thinking I was going to go into fashion merchandising, and they told me I was going to have to take organic chemistry. And I said, I'm out of here.
That'd be me too. I'm like, nope.
So I took one of those career aptitude tests, and they said you could be a nurse or go into PR and communications. I said, well, I don't like blood, so that's not going to work. So I went to the business school at Auburn University and really loved it. It had some great professors, I will say all except my quantitative analysis professor. But I had great professors that had real world experience, and I fell in love with it. I just have been in marketing ever since I graduated in various roles, everything from working at a children's hospital. I was with AT&T Southern Bell for many years, and then I went with Holiday Inn Worldwide and became director of marketing for their global brand. And then I went with Fortune magazine. So it's just been, I've always said good marketing is really being naturally observant about the world around you. And it is cross industry. It is not industry specific. You can take those learnings and apply them to just about any industry if you're really observant. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, especially marketing is ever changing right now with the pandemic going on. Has that affected you and your business at all?
Well, yeah, I think it affects all of us. We're fortunate enough to be in an industry that it actually helped us, but we had to pivot with our messaging. Before, we were using fire up your online sales. Well, during the pandemic, they didn't need to fire up their online sales. Now as grocery shopping evolved, because now it is an evolved process. It's not ever going to go back to the way it was, and so is ever changing. So absolutely, I think you have to be able to pivot, again, using your observing skills to really watch the market and what's working within that.
Louise, what did you do at the Children's Hospital, and what did you enjoy most about that experience?
Wow, that's probably my favorite job ever. I was director of marketing for Eccleston Children's Hospital. And I think what really was unique about that job is that when you went to the hospital and you had these young children who were going through chemo, they may have had to have a leg amputated, and they still have big smiles on their faces. They had little carts and little go-karts that they could run around, but somehow they found joy in every day. And to me, that is a huge life lesson for all of us. When we hit tough times and things are going tough, you can look outside and say, wow, that is the bluest sky I've seen today. And that's still finding a little joy in your day. And I think that's why that had such a big impact on me. I did things like PSAs for them on, childhood poisoning. I actually started a campaign that spread about connecting people who sold bicycles with wearing bicycle helmets, because that's about the time that came. And so we created hang tags that went on every bicycle that was sold at Target in our local area to remind people to buy their bicycle helmet. And now it's a everyday thing that people wear bicycle helmets. But it saved a lot of brain injuries for young children. That was very impactful.
Yeah, no, that is impactful, and it's and you said brings a smile to your face. Even the children have a smile to their face. It's I'm a big donator to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and it's things like that where obviously there's a crazy time going on right now, the pandemic. But you donate there, you see those commercials, and you're like, oh, you know what? There's things that there's other issues out there. Right. There's other problems. So also, I wanted to dive into, I know that just from reading about your work, you've been a big advocate for, women in technology. Mm-hmm. Talk to me, Louise, about what is the situation in kind of the you would say, I guess, the grocery, the food and beverage industry, and women in that field.
Right. Well, women in tech, we need to encourage more young women with STEM and things like that. And also being entrepreneurs, women in the past aren't natural risk takers. I would say maybe because I grew up with an entrepreneur father and two older brothers, taking risks became a little more natural to me. But technology, we still need to get women feeling confident to do that. The grocery store industry, believe it or not, only 50% of grocers before COVID were even online shopping. I know that sounds, the big guys obviously, but 50% not. And most of them are not owned by women. And it's a really easy sell for us when we talk to women about what we do because they get it. So we have the challenge of not a lot of women tech, not a lot of women on the grocery side, and with investors. Most investors, angel investors, are men. And even though there are so-called women's groups that invest in women, it's still small and far between. And I'm hoping that as we push through this and become successful, we can be role models to other women to take the risk to become entrepreneurs and push in there and get your funding and go in areas that are not natural feeling for them. I have been kind of a trailblazer all my life, and my previous consulting really worked with women entrepreneurs to help them find their voice. I'm very passionate. I want to make clear, I do not see myself as a victim. I think the best way to do this is go out there and be the best at what you do. And that resonates with people. And we just need to encourage more women to take that risk and be risk takers.
And Louise,
Yes.
you've had a pretty great career so far. What's kind of one or two lessons that you can give to people who are just getting into marketing, or the things you have picked up over the years?
Sure. I think the number one thing is to be a good listener. We actually have a sales process now. We talk about having our first call being our listening call. Because when you're building marketing strategies and tactics, if you don't know what your customer is thinking, what the benefit sell is to them of what you're selling, and how you can help them meet their goals, you're talking at them. You're not providing anything that's going to help them get where they're wanting. So I think absolutely number one, and listen, I had to learn this myself, because those of us who are in sales and marketing, we really don't have a problem talking. We have more of a problem listening. And I've had to learn that over the years. But I truly believe if you can find out how you can help that customer win their day, then it's an easy sell and creating marketing strategy. And the other one is don't be afraid to fail. I am a executive partner at the MBA school at William & Mary. And a lot of people think they need to get their dream job right out of school. I said, you know what? If you go into sales first and you know what your customer is thinking, you're more valuable to the company as you move up into marketing. Because a marketing strategy without a connection to the customer is worthless. You're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And sometimes we do things in isolation. And, we need everybody from the truck driver to the boardroom together to really have truly valuable brand messaging. So I think that's the two things that I would say.
And when you're interviewing people to work for you, what are some of the key qualities or questions that you ask them to decide whether they're going to be a good fit for your team?
Well, one of my favorite ones is to always ask, tell me something about you that I wouldn't see on your resume. Because that tells me a lot about the person they are. That stumps them, because if you're just going to tell me you're a creative person, you like people, that doesn't tell me anything about you. And I'll give an example. I was working with a young MBA student, and I said, tell me something that not on your resume. And she was stumbling. And I happened to see somewhere that she was an equestrian. And I said, tell me this, how many times were you thrown off a horse? And she was a very quiet person. She was an introvert. And she said, oh my gosh, I can't count that high. And I said, how many times did you get back on that horse? She goes, every time. I said, that right there tells me more about you than anything I see on your resume. The tenacity and the willing to keep on coming at it again, even when you get thrown off. And that goes back to that fear of failure I just talked about. Don't be afraid to fail. That told me more about her. So in her 30-second elevator pitch, she can tell that story, and that's going to stick with somebody. So that is one. I really think resumes are almost, you got to have them, but I need to know things about you. I don't need to know that you're a 4.0 student. For quite frankly, for me, that means nothing. I want to know, are you tenacious? What is your work ethic? Are you organized? What are your creative thinking processes? So I tend to ask questions that are going to go in that direction.
Louise, what are some of the strategies for 2021 for Shopee? What, implementing, new services, new products, talk to me about some of those plans.
Sure, it's interesting. We just had a retreat of our executives, and we really looked forward. And something I think that we have really honed in on, we are focusing on the e-commerce providers for the middle market grocery stores. Sometimes we can get distracted, and should we be this or we should be that? And we are staying very focused on being a software company, a SaaS software company that is going to be helping mid-market e-commerce platforms. When I say that, there are big grocery stores that are vertically integrated. They have their own internal e-commerce platforms, but there are several e-commerce companies out there that work with mid-sized grocery store chains. So our focus is to stay focused on that, integrate a new e-commerce platform every quarter, and bring in brands who sponsor recipes. Now, when we talk about our software, you start out with a proof of concept, and then you build 1.5, 2.0, 2.5. And we are already down the road thinking about what those new things are going to be within our platform. Using AI for instance, to know your pantry. If you're a consistent shopper with that grocery store, we'll know that you have olive oil still in your pantry, that you bought it last week. So we don't need to suggest that you buy olive oil for this recipe. So we will be using more AI as our proof of concept gets consolidated. We also are going to be building out our data dashboard. Our data that we would have available to our CPGs and our grocers will be very valuable. So we'll be building out our data dashboard with conversion versus a corollary. Sorry about that. When you make correlated data, excuse me, get that out there.
Yeah. We will. Yeah, it's good. But and also I think right now it's so needed, right? People are at home. People are cooking more. They need a solution. Really easy. If I can go to an online grocer, point and click on what I want, a recipe. Someone like myself who loves to cook, I think that's great. And also for people who really don't know how to cook, it's an easy way to kind of get all the ingredients you're looking for. So I love the idea.
Well, one point to that, one thing that really differentiates us is we use more of a Pinterest, Instagram approach. We will have food bloggers who will be providing chef tips and video eventually, as you were talking about in 2021, we'll be adding video. But this is, right now, if you go online to any site that provides recipe to cart, we're not recipe to cart, but we have that as part of our offering, is that it looks like Times Square. No offense to Times Square.
No.
I love Times Square. But it's billboards everywhere, right? And this is not that. It's a beautiful, we eat with our eyes, right? We want a beautiful experience. So for someone who loves to cook, you can go in and search by protein, 17 different dietary categories. You can do it by recipe type, and you'll see beautiful photography that will be there for you to feast upon. And that really helps you want to decide what you're going to eat versus just, oh, here, do this.
And also, you mentioned Katie, and
Yes.
at one point, did you used to work with Katie? How did you meet her? Did you used to mentor her? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, right. So I've been a mentor to Katie is our CEO, and I've been her mentor for 20 years. I helped her get her first job out of college. So it's really fun to bring my working experience and hers. She was a data marketer with a major international company. And so I know her well. We worked extremely well together. We also have a CTO and some other people that work with us, but it's been a great marriage of different talents. And I think that's, we get along extremely well, but we also have different talents. And so that really is I think, a recipe for success. No pun intended.
I like it. Yep.
Maybe pun intended.
Pun intended. Perfect. I love
right.
it.
So as a startup in this industry, what do you think some of your biggest impediments are going to be, or obstacles that you need to overcome?
I really felt like at first we were trying to go in at the grocer level. And we learn from experience now that we need to focus on being a software company that integrates first with the e-commerce platforms. So as I mentioned before, I think with a startup, it's like chasing the shiny object. And sometimes you can get very distracted on which direction you want to go. And I think staying focused and that is really important. Obstacles, funding, I think is always an obstacle for a startup. We are based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and we started an incubator down there. We actually work out of the Davidson College. They call it the HURT Hub, which is an entrepreneurial tech hub there. But it's still a challenge to find funding. And we are finishing up a seed round right now. Again, we've been bootstrapped up into this point and don't plan to try to have to raise too much money. But I think for any entrepreneur, that sucks a lot of time out of your day. And it's not always productive time, but you just have to keep on putting the information out there and trying to find people. Our first 3 investors were doctors because they really felt like there was a health benefit to people being able to plan their meals better. And they jumped on right away. But I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges, is staying focused, true to what you want to be, and raising funds.
Very true. And here's one kind of a fun question. What's a marketing pet peeve of yours, something that other companies do that drives you completely crazy? Or it could be a personal pet peeve too.
One is not following through when you say you are. That is probably my pet peeve. If you ask for information, I send it to you, and then you don't get back to me. I'm one of those people that feel like you need to get back with somebody with no more than 48 hours after and I really try to do that. The other pet peeve, I think, on LinkedIn is if I get a message and it says Louise P, I know they don't have my last name, and that means it's automated. And I'm going, you don't take the time to write me a note, forget it. I will take the risk. I will take calls or, accept somebody's invitation if they're creative, even if it's not in a field that I think I can use right now. I also do try to, and if I'm not interested, I will say thank you. I'm just not interested right now. And but I would say lack of response to things. If you say you're going to meet a deadline, meet your deadline, and that's really annoying.
And that actually, leads us somewhat into we always ask the question here on the Marketing Stir. It's become our signature question. It's the LinkedIn question. So it's kind of, you said it there, or maybe you want to elaborate as well, Louise. It's what message on LinkedIn gets you to say, you know what, I'm interested. Let's set up a call, a meeting, or what just really bugs you. I take it some of the lack of personalization. Anything else?
Right. And I think right now there's so many of those companies out there that automate your LinkedIn for you. They'll keep on sending you LinkedIn, and now I know what they're doing, and that kind of is annoying. If you want to get to me, and you think you really have know something about my company, just don't go copy and paste out of my bio or the company profile the exact same words. Just like I said earlier, tell me how the benefits sell. Give me a little tidbit of how your company in a creative way might be able to help me meet my goals. And, it may not be a service that I need, but be a little creative. I'd rather them not put a note in at all and let me decide than to do something that's just canned.
Yeah. Well, yeah, someone will pay. I see you were founded in 2019. I know that year. It's like, wait, what? Like, what kind of,
Right.
what is that? Throw in something about Auburn. Throw in the
Yes!
football program.
Right. That would be
national.
one that would get me right there.
They've been national champions. Cam Newton. Throw
Don't
something
mention
out.
the last football game because it was terrible, but
Don't
that's
mention,
okay.
Don't
I'm
mention
a very
that.
loyal Auburn War Eagles. So if you mention something about I go and look where people went to school or what they majored in. So when I have conversations with people, we can have this, personalize it a little bit. I think that's key.
I agree. I got one message and I shared it with my sales team because the person, remember that one, AJ? It was like, go Gophers. I'm just kidding. I saw that you went there. I was like, I actually went, and they said, I actually went to a different school. First of all, I didn't go to, my mascot wasn't the gopher. I didn't even see a gopher on campus. I don't even know what this person was talking about. I went to State University in New York at Oswego. It was like, I think the Lakers it was way off. So it's like, is that a canned response where they're trying to it got my attention, but not in the right way.
Right.
I didn't respond back, but
Yeah.
Anyway, another thing we ask about the marketing on the marketing stir here is we get specific into marketing and some of the tactics that you have used or plan on using. Is it an account-based marketing approach, Louise? Is it, you mentioned some of the targets there, but what methods are you using at Shopii?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It depends on what phase we're in, right? Right before COVID hit, we're getting ready to launch our funding and all that kind of stuff. We didn't have any money, but we went, Progressive Grocer came to us and said, oh, we have a special thing. So we took advantage of free publicity. We write articles, especially our CEO. I put her out there most of the time. And we write articles that we share on LinkedIn or with other trade publications. And I can tell you, we've had some recently on the Shelby report that Katie and I have written together, and we get tons of inbound leads when those are into industry pubs. So I think taking advantage, especially as a startup, of free publicity. We're getting ready to launch our exclusive early access program for CPGs this week at a conference called Shop Talk. So I have used LinkedIn a great deal. So you have to sign up for meetings and things like that. It's all virtual. So I've literally gone on and sent a message to every person that I'm having a meeting with that's on LinkedIn and tell them that I'm looking forward to having our conversation. That way I know something about them. They know something about me before the conversation is ever had. So I think using tools like that, even Instagram and Facebook have their places depending on what business you're in. Instagram is more instant. You need to have good photography. Facebook is used to tell more of a story. It's there longer. So we've used that. I'll be using email a lot, but as a startup, we just don't have deep pockets to be using. So we have to be judicious about where we spend our money. We go to conferences now virtually, but they have to be very worthy of our time and our effort to spend that kind of money. So I'll be using a lot of emails here this next week to send out this early access program.
What's been kind of a highlight of your career, something you're really proud of?
This is going to sound kind of funny. There are two things. One is I have three beautiful, smart daughters, and they've all gone into marketing in some form or fashion. One's medical, one works for an M&FL team, and one is industrial design, which if you know anything about that, uses really a great progression of design and marketing to do those products. So I would say that I'm most proud of that. gosh, I've really had a lot of wonderful opportunities in my career. It's hard to pick one. But I guess I started a program for Holiday Inn Worldwide, which was the official hotel for family fun, and kids eat free. And I don't know if y'all remember Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Yep.
We did a big marketing program around that, and it was all in North America. And it was this huge success. And we had a geography learning program where we developed a travel card game that you would get when you checked into the hotels that taught geography. And I think being able to combine marketing with learning, something that not many of us learn anymore about geography and our capitals and things like that, I would say I was really proud of that particular program that I developed for the hotel brand.
And what's, kind of what have you been doing personally in the last 6 months or so outside of work that's kept you busy? And I'm guessing you're probably a little bit quarantined like the rest of us as well.
Right. I feel like it's, I get up, I work out religiously almost every day. I think that's really important to your mental state, especially during quarantine. I feel like it's get up, rinse, repeat. So I work out, I work, and then I try to find something to entertain myself. I'm by myself, so entertain myself from 5 to whenever I go to bed. If I'm like y'all are like me, you're on technology all day long, so you kind of need that disconnect. So I try to find things to disconnect. I'm a gardener. I love working in my garden, all different seasons. So that's kind of a solace, and I'm also a biker. So really fortunate to have the Capitol Trail right outside my neighborhood here in Virginia. It goes from the colonial capital to Richmond, and I can get on there and just take off and ride and listen to good music. And so distractions, I would say. Doing a little more baking than I normally would. So I don't eat it, so I bake it and then I give it away to my friends. So, okay,
you couldn't live in New York City? Come on, that's I love baked goods. That would be great. Louise, any books, that you've read over your career that you'd recommend to people? Any documentaries that you've been watching during this time?
Sure.
Our listeners, they listen to that. They know they take advice from our guests, and they tell us, hey, I read that book that Joe recommended.
Yeah. So a book that I read at the beginning of COVID was from the founders of Netflix. They said it couldn't work, and I think that is an excellent book for people who are going to start a startup to read. I think it's fabulous. It was I listened to it on Audible when I was driving places. Loved it. Fantastic book. Another book, Women Who Fly. It's about the WASP. That was the Women Air Service program.
Oh.
Very interesting. These women, to me, I wish I could sit down and have a conversation. Pearl Harbor, women were sent to the islands, Hawaiian Islands, to train Army pilots. We didn't have the Air Force back then, so they trained Army pilots, and they were actually in the skies around Hawaii when the invasion happened. And so it is it's a historic fiction, but it really talks about, there are about 1,100 of these women, and they were never accepted as a true branch of the services. So they were the test pilots. When planes were fixed out in Arizona or new planes, they were the one that tested them. And if they were to die doing what they do, and their family and friends had to pay to have their bodies shipped home. So I think that story, excuse me, it encouraged me to go watch videos of these women being interviewed. And it stuck with me. They said, find something you're passionate about, do it, and then just go do it. None of them had chips on their shoulders. They were not going, woe is me, life is not fair. They volunteered during this time, knowing it was very risky. Several of them were college graduates. Some of them were crop dusters in the South because they had to do those things when the men went to war, but they were awesome. And I think it's a very encouraging story for anybody to read. They were finally acknowledged by, I think, starting with Barry Goldwater, and then and Obama acknowledged them as a branch of the service. But it's an inspiring story. So anything about them, I think I would definitely encourage people to read. And then not business, but a fun podcast. My friend, and he was an editor at Fortune Magazine, Joe Nocera, has a great podcast, said The Shrink Next Door. Have you listened to that one?
No, I like the name.
Well, it's based in New York City, so in the Hamptons, so you might get it. And I just finished one called Over My Dead Body, which was another very interesting. I try to find these things to entertain myself when I'm driving. So
yeah.
So those are some
the Shrink
fiction
Next
and
Door.
ones.
I like that. I like The Shrink Next Door. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of people, I feel like podcasts have been really becoming popular. Just people want to, listen to them in the background or listen to them while they're driving.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big Audible book fan. So, oh, great. Yeah. So thank you for that, advice for our listeners there. And Louise, I didn't ask, but how do you like the startup world? You worked at large organizations in the past. What's different? What do you like about it?
Well, yes, I worked for large corporations, but I ran divisions within large corporations. So you had to have an entrepreneurial spirit to even do that. So whether it was with Fortune Magazine, where I had a territory and I had certain goals to meet, and I had to figure out how to do that. It's not that dissimilar, but I also grew up in an entrepreneurial household. Well, it's feast or famine when you go that. So I knew the perils of it, but I think it comes naturally to me. At this stage in my career, I'm loving it. You have to be a jack of all trades and, not proficient at anything at this point, because you have to step in and do whatever it takes. It's fun. Learning a lot about things that I didn't know about, more of the financing side. And you find advisors who really do want to help you along the way, like I've helped others. So it's really a neat environment to be in. So yes, it's different, but it's energizing at the same time. I can't imagine what COVID would have been like if I didn't have it, because we have not stopped one iota during this time, and it has kept us very busy. And I love doing these kind of podcasts and others to help other people, because when I fade away in the next version of my career, that's really where I want to spend my time, is helping other women and men, with their entrepreneurial journey.
And Luis, one final question for you. So you've worked from home for a long time. For most of us, this is a pretty new experience. So, how has that been for you? What are some kind of tips and advice to keep kind of the mental sanity?
Right. Well, it's funny. I've been working from home since 1996. So I really have been doing it a long time. And my house is the most wired house that you can ever imagine. With a Fortune Magazine, I had a T1 line coming in, and now everything's right Bluetooth. So I think you have to get up away from your desk a couple of times a day. Go walk outside, go smell fresh air, find something that takes your minds off it. I think it's, especially of those of us in marketing, we miss that interaction with people, because when we ideate, we feed off each other. When I used to be in rooms with students and trying to get them to come up with strategies and things where we were working on, they had their computers open. I'd tell them to close their computer, get a whiteboard, and start doing some ideation. And I think it stifles us a bit in marketing when we can't feed off that. So we have to find our inspiration other ways. If it's just taking a walk in nature, or getting fresh air, or doing something like baking that takes your mind off of it, I find that I become more creative and think of answers to my pressing questions when I step away from it. So I think that's really important, because there's no water cooler talk. Nobody's taking lunch breaks, and we tend to work longer hours doing this. I mean, there are no barriers anymore. I get emails at 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, all weekend long, and you do have you really have to take naps like you do to shut it off. Otherwise, we'd be working 24/7, and we have that drive that sometimes we feel like we always have to answer, and we don't. And I think we have to set up those. So those would be my suggestions.
Nice. Well, thank you, Louise. This has been our time on the Marketing Stir. Thank you so much for sharing information about Shopii, advice for female entrepreneurs, especially. We appreciate all the work you're doing there and all the work that Shopii is doing. That is Louise Pritchard.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. You know, Louise Pritchard from Shopii, the CMO. I am Vincent Petrofessa. He's awake, he's not napping. Ajay Gupta, our CEO here. This has been another episode of the Marketing Stir. Thank you so much for listening and watching on YouTube. We hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like, rate, and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, email us at info@themarketingstir.com. And thanks for listening.